10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, my friends in Sasquatch land, and welcome to Tuesday night at Discover Sasquatch Studios. And do we have another great show for you tonight? Our friend from the West Coast, Brown Dwarf, is in the studio right now backstage. But before we get to Brown Dwarf, I have a couple announcements to make. Seeing how the KGRA show got canceled last week, we had to do the drawing, and our own boots on the ground made the drawing for the sweatshirt. Here is the sweatshirt itself. Discover Sasquatch. It says Get in the Woods on the back. And the winner of the sweatshirt is, drum roll, Mr. Steve Wolf. Congratulations to Mr. Steve Wolf. He is the winner of the sweatshirt. So we will get a hold of him, and we will send that sweatshirt out to you. Tomorrow night, Miss Katie Page is going to draw the winner of her autograph book, Letters of Love and Light. And we will announce that on KGRA Thursday night as Mr. Brian Bowden, Sir Brian Bowden, joins us to talk about my hometown legend, the Winchester Wildman. So come on over there Thursday night and find out the winner of Letters of Love and Light, the book, autographed copy. So make sure you guys head on over there on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And so tonight, we also have a giveaway. I have a one-of-one shirt. There will never be another one made. This is it. This is the only shirt of its kind in existence. And you have to stay tuned to the end of the podcast to learn how to win the shirt. Also coming up, keep your eye open for a couple great shows we got lined up. They're not going to be on our regular time. They're going to be slipped in here and there. And again, keep your eyes and ears open. So our friend Brown Dwarf has been backstage and patiently waiting to come out. Brown Dwarf was born in Hollywood, California, for all you didn't know, and resides in Humboldt County, California, as well as Southern Oregon. He's always been fascinated with the mysteries of life. As a youth, he began having UFO sightings, which continue to this day. Living in Bigfoot country has expanded his reality to the phenomenon of the Sasquatch people. Having had several sightings and many experiences with these beings, he began documenting his journey. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Yeah, man, we got it right.
Hey.
Hello, my good friend.
What's up, brother Chris? Greetings, everyone out there in chat, YouTube land, and beyond. Salute. Happy Love Day to everyone. Spread some love vibes out there for everyone.
Yeah, that's right. Today is Valentine's Day. I hope you guys are all snuggled up with your significant other right now and watching us. Better way to spend Valentine's Day with Brown Dwarf and Chris from Discover Sasquatch. That's where I would be, right? Hey,
why not?
Before we get in there, Steve Wolf. Hello, my friend. You have won the sweatshirt. You tuned in a little bit late, but you have to get your information after the show. So congratulations, Steve.
Brother Wolf.
Right.
Much love, man. He's a good guy. I love that guy. He's always spreading good vibes.
Yeah, he is a good guy, and I'm glad that he won it. He's a really good guy.
Much
Well,
deserved.
so once again, my friend, full circle. I have come back. When I first started, you were we were one of the first people I talked to. We exchanged, conversations. We did all the same things, and I went my own way again, and now again, all the way around and back again.
Woo! And here we are, man. And we've never had a platform like this, dude. And you've got quite the stage here. It's awesome.
Right.
And
So
I've been
oh,
uh-huh.
go ahead.
I was gonna say I've been digging what you're doing, man. Some great interviews. I think you had Doug on recently. Salute to Doug. That's awesome. And man, a lot of other guests. I'm honored to be on.
I appreciate it. I'm honored to have you here, and I am glad that you've come back and you've accepted the full circle and you understand how it goes. And like you said, we talked last night, and you've had a couple of little full circles yourself. And
Oh yeah, man. Life's a cycle. There's cycles to things, and I'm getting into the rhythm of some and leaving others. And life's been good thus far, man. Although we have our ups and downs, right? Yeah, man, it seems like things are brightening up for me and for a lot of other people. But at the same time, there is the dark side to things, and there's some people that are in some pretty bad situations. I see some things going on in the Bigfoot world as usual. There's always something stirring up, but it seems like the volcano's starting to almost wanting to erupt. I see a lot of things happening everywhere, and man, I try to avoid all that stuff as much as possible. Just observe and just try to avoid those types of problems, man. But I do see it happening.
I agree with you 100%. There's no room for drama in this. It's hard enough for people to believe what you're doing and believe in what you do and experience and be aware of what's going on out there, but then you throw the drama into the loop, and it just hurts everything. And I'm with you. I like to stay away from it. I walk away from it, and that's the way I do things.
Yeah, and I guess it just comes with the territory. I'm seeing just anything that humans do whenever there's a lot of people involved, things tend to happen, no matter what scene you're talking about. But and yeah, unfortunately it's in this scene as well. And yeah, man, I just yeah, I don't know what to think sometimes. I felt like, yeah, I've seen you pop up for a minute. We became friends, and then we kind of just went our ways, kept in touch for a bit. And yeah, I kind of went, through my stuff too, had some issues with someone, and it's some unfortunate moments, but we got over that and moving forward, that's a thing that I'm dealing with a lot in this point with myself, is just moving forward with things, not holding on to stuff, processing things, learning how to process things certain ways, and yeah, man. So it's good. It's good learning life. It's quite a journey.
I agree with you 100%. Why don't you give everybody a little bit of background on Brown Dwarf and tell them how you got involved in all this and how you survived after all these years of the craziness. And,
Yeah, man. So yeah, you, like you said in the introduction, grew up in Los Angeles, and it was after high school. I had a friend. A lot of them were leaving to different schools and stuff. And one good friend of mine, she ended up going up to Humboldt State, and we always heard about Humboldt and stuff, and we always thought it was just like this mythical place. We'd hear about it because of certain reasons, and it was like, oh yeah, but no one really knows. It's like this hidden place in California. And anyway, she gets up there, and she just knew that it would be the place for me, and she was like, you need to come up here and visit. And I made it a thing and made my way up there. Took it, I think, an Amtrak and some buses, some Greyhounds, and made my way up north, man. And yeah, once I reached there, it was just like, yeah, another planet, another world, different vibe. And yeah, you feel it once you get in those redwoods, man. It's just a real magical feeling. And yeah, there's some great people up there, and there is some dark sides to Humboldt County. You know, I don't know if you've seen or heard of the Murder Mountain documentary on Netflix. That's basically our hill there, and so yeah, you get that whole dark scene, and it's a lot of it's true, but then there is a whole other bright side to it. A lot of beautiful, wonderful people, beautiful land, and just some really good stuff out there, man. And there's another documentary I want to mention is Sasquatch on Hulu, which is actually on Mendocino. It's in the Mendocino County side of things, but it kind of bleeds over because we're in southern Humboldt. I'm actually all over Humboldt County, but we have a homestead in southern Humboldt, and it's basically at the border of Mendocino, and that's where Sasquatch. But Sasquatch has it has really nothing to do with Sasquatch. I won't spoil it, but I'll just kind of leave it at that. But it's basically covering our area there. And there's been several other films that have been filmed in Humboldt County that are Bigfoot related. There's Willow Creek, Primal Rage, Lost Coast Tapes, and maybe a few others. But yeah, there's been quite a bit of movies that have been filmed up there, and of course, you know, we're well known for the Patterson footage, which is basically in Humboldt County, but it's on the border. I guess technically the Bluff Creek Project, which is a group in Humboldt County locally who have been working on the Patty site for several years and trying to pinpoint where everything went down and where the actual, you know, where she stepped and this, you know, all this type of information they've been working on and been doing a great job. That's, I guess, technically the border of Humboldt and Del Norte County, which is the neighboring county to the north of Humboldt, excuse me. And so yeah, anyway, so we got that going on there. And of course, we also have the most amount of reports documented out of California. So out of all the counties in California, Humboldt has the most reported sightings. And that's according to BFRO. And I know BFRO has been in hot water as of late, and just because of certain situations they got going on. But I still use it as a database for me just to get an idea of what's going on in my areas. And I also have other sources that, you know, local sources that I know, locals and news sources and stuff like that I tap into to get information. And yeah, so that we got all that going on up there, and the rest of the state, you know, even in Northern California, has a lot of stuff going on as well. And I do travel to those other counties. You know, there's Trinity County. There's, like I mentioned, Mendocino, Sonoma County. I've been out towards Yosemite as well, those areas, and done some stuff here in Southern California as well, where I'm at the moment. I'm in LA. And so there's stuff going on out here, things and places I've checked out over the years, and we have found stuff that have led us to believe that they are in these areas as well. And as well as the reports, like I'm mentioning. So yeah, and that's how, so I made the trip up there. And so there was this big reggae festival that would happen every year. And she's like, you got to come check the festival. I didn't get to check it the first time, but made it a thing the following year. And it became a ritual. And I would go up every year for this festival, made friends. And it was like 12 years of doing this festival thing, and as well as other festivals and just hanging out with people and whatnot. I ended up staying 1 year and never went back down south. And I was living with this guy. He actually hired me as a friend of mine. She had a boyfriend at the time, and he was this old hippie dude, and he had this property up there, pretty big property, a little over 40 acres up in the hills, and he needed someone to basically caretake. And I was working for a health food store at the time, big famous health food store down here for years, and I was just about over it. And you know what? As soon as that opportunity opened up, I hit the road, and that was that. And next thing I know, I found myself up in the hills up there, and learning the ropes, man. He taught me a lot of stuff, you know, just the way of life up there, the country living, and he, like I said, this dude's like an old school real hippie, so he taught me his ways as well, which is pretty groovy and cool, man. And I loved it, fell in love, and was totally open and up for it. And yeah, just living out there for years. I was very aware of the phenomenon because it's in your face out there in the Pacific Northwest. It's all over the place. You know, I always mention that it's you see, you know, shirts, stickers, storefronts, redwood carvings, you name it, dude. It's like Bigfoot is all over the place, and so we know about it. You hear the stories from locals and stuff like that, and so I've always known about the Patterson footage. So growing up, my mom, we were watching some old gory kind of gory films, and in these movies they showed the Patterson footage, and I seen that, and I just knew that they were real. And come to find out, I moved up there and found out that this is where the film was taken. So it was just all these weird connections and things that were happening. And so my brother put me on to some of the stuff that was going on YouTube. And I started checking some of that stuff out, and I started learning about the stick structures and stuff. And I was like, you know what? At this time, I had already moved from this particular property. We ended up getting our own place apart, my partner and I. And it was a big spread as well, 40-acre plus up in the hills as well, southern Humboldt. And I was like, you know, getting into the phenomenon and finding out about these stick structures. And I was like, you know what, let me take a look around the property and see if, you know, I've noticed anything odd or anything. And sure enough, I started finding stuff, Chris. And I was like, wow, okay. And so it started, you know, documenting certain things. And I also started noticing, because we have a lot of wildlife up there, you name it, bears, mountain lion, all that. But there were some sounds that I was noticing that were kind of strange. And I realized some of the wildlife do make strange sounds. And so I started documenting some of this stuff with my phone as well. And I think my first video was of these strange sounds. It was almost like these coyote. It was most likely coyote, but it was just weird. It had this weird hyena type laughing sound to it. And I had heard those sounds on YouTube that someone else had posted, and I believe they were called the Umatilla sounds, if I'm not mistaken. And it just reminded me of that. And so I went ahead and I was not familiar with YouTube, how to use it, whatever. And I made my first post. It was these vocalizations. And someone had gotten back to me and said, like, hey, those sounds are pretty interesting. You know, you should get an audio recorder. And I went ahead and did a little research on audio recorders and ended up with the Zoom H5, which I recommend. And just started recording, leaving it out, recording, and you know, also informing myself with what people were encountering and discovering and whatnot. And I was making some of the same discoveries. So from the property, I started making my way down to some of the redwood groves and state parks and stuff that were in the area, which are very close by, just down the hill, about 45 minutes. And we have a huge river that goes through there, the Eel River. And like I mentioned, these places have history. So I made it a note to jot down these areas where these sightings and reports were you know, being taken from. And I started finding these structures around these areas. And you know, I was very aware about, you know, Boy Scouts and bushcraft and stuff like that. And we do get your, you know, your people that roam from other places coming through. So a lot of travelers and homeless people too, you know, and especially these days, the homeless thing's a big issue everywhere, right? But yeah, so, you know, so I started vetting certain things out, you know, certain things that I thought maybe were more human related. And then started noticing that, yeah, it's in some of these things you find human things, but certain things weren't leading me to believe that it was humans. And some of these things were like tracks. I started finding tracks around some of these structures. And sometimes odd things would happen to me around the structures. There's one in particular. One time I was checking out, so I started following up on these areas. I would follow up, monitor these areas, and would see structures go up, go down, get half built, and then later they would like finish it up, or they would pop up. I would notice a lot of times it seemed like overnight. And so I was checking up on one of my areas, and, you know, noticed some new structures there. And while I'm checking this stuff out, and big mistake. I should have had my camera rolling, right away. I recommend people to get those cameras rolling as soon as you get to your areas. So I'm checking out the structures, and the loudest tree break, man. It was just like sounded like almost like a gun. It was pretty scary, but super exciting. And for that to happen, I mean, could that have happened naturally? Yes. It has happened to me to where I've seen trees fall before in front of my eyes, and it's happened more than once. And I think that's kind of odd. Maybe once or twice, okay, but I've had this happen more than once, and that tree break was just like, and I just felt it in me, like, here's your sign. It was just like a hey, I'm here. And so sure enough, right away I pop out the camera and get it rolling, and just slowly start panning around the area, and just really didn't pick up anything after that. But that was super exciting. So just like little confirmations and stuff like that I find around the structures, or just when I'm in certain areas, I keep my senses open to things like that, because it'll be subtle things. I believe a lot of times it'll be subtle things, but then it'll be boom in your face obvious stuff like that too. So yeah, man.
So being in Humboldt County, I mean, it's a Sasquatcher's dream. I mean, you could go any direction, and you can go to the biggest hot spot that the, there is. You could go to the Patterson Gimlin site. You can go further up into Oregon, and you can go up to into the Pacific Northwest woods up there. I mean, this is Sasquatch dreams. What made you decide to go and do the redwoods? Because there wasn't, and when I first started this, I didn't see a lot of people going to the redwoods. I mean, you never even
Right.
heard of them. What made
Yeah. No,
what made you turn to the redwoods?
yeah. So that just kind of fell in my lap, because like I said, in my life at that point, I was making that transition of getting out of the city, getting out of the matrix. I was like ready for something else. And so Humboldt was calling, and so it was just all there. I didn't know that it was the Bigfoot, I call it the Mecca. I knew because of going up there that it's there, but I didn't know that the whole patty thing, and just the amount of reports and sightings, and yeah, you would hear people talk. I've talked to a lot of the locals, a lot of people that have been through there, that have experienced stuff, and it's happening. And you know what, it started happening to me, and it's like, dude, this is really really happening. And so that's why I decided to document and share with people, because I seen that people were sharing stuff, and some of the stuff that I was experiencing and finding was similar to some of the stuff that you were experiencing and finding, and others were. And it was like, it was such a cool moment that we had back then. It was kind of like this little golden era, I call, that we were all kind of like in this journey together, discovering these things, making these discoveries, sharing the stuff. It was a really good time. And yeah, I just kind of kept it going. I did dip underground for a bit, I think I might have, but I was always kind of there and always supporting other people and stuff, man.
It was a little community with the structures. I mean, everybody was out there filming the structures. They were finding the structures, and everybody was conversing about them, and what was in common, what was brand new, what were they adding, what kind of garbage was being left in, and what were they weaving in, and all that. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
it was like my first 3 years, and it was a good time. There was a lot of people that were doing, a lot of people that were conversing back and forth. But then, then people go their separate ways. But I just
Right.
wanted this picture you shared with us, with me today. Now, this is in the redwood forest, correct?
Yeah, so that's a gnarly. So I guess that's a downed redwood, but it looks like the gaping mouth of some sort of monster creature or something. But yeah, I'm just kind of chilling there in my camo, and just yeah, one of those gnarly scenes out there, man.
What was the craziest experience you ever had in the redwoods?
Oh man, so there's been several, man, because there's some of them that have involved dreams, and but I have had two sightings that I claim like full body sightings. There's been other experiences where I wasn't sure. There's something there. I couldn't make out what it was, or I just kind of like sense a presence of some sort. But yeah, my first sighting was on this property in southern Humboldt, and like I say, so these parcels of land are like your nearest neighbor is going to be like, oh man, maybe like half a mile away or so. You know, everyone's pretty spread out, and it's a gated. So in this community here, it's we have a gate, and you need a code to get in. So, and all the neighbors pretty much know each other, and it's just a few neighbors, and everyone keeps to themselves. You hardly ever see anyone, you know. And if someone is in the area that's not known, it's most likely, you know, someone that let them in, or they had the code, and so, you know, we're pretty familiar with everyone that comes through there. And so this one particular summer, I was headed to this top part of the property, which is it's up a hill, and there's this a ridge, a couple ridges up there, and these are all dirt roads. You know, there's nothing paved. You're off of paved roads. These are all private roads. And so I was headed up to the top of this particular part of the property, and to the side of me it's all woods. And so I'm driving down the road here, and off to my left, I noticed what looked like a humanoid figure. It was black. It wasn't big. I would imagine maybe like 5.5 feet, maybe 6 at the most. You know, it wasn't huge, and it wasn't bulky or anything. And this figure was paralleling me, and I was in my truck. It was paralleling me through the woods. And as it was going, it reminded me, I always explained that it reminded me of those flip books, those cartoon flip books that, remember, you used to just like flip and the cartoon would kind of like happen.
Yep. Yep.
That's what it looked like. And so this thing zips by me, and then it hides behind a pretty big oak tree. There's an oak tree there, but it's hiding behind the tree, but I would imagine crouched down because it's at towards the base of the tree, and all I see is like a head sticking out, and it's all black. And I always describe it looked like just a grayish mask around here. So I couldn't really even see nose or anything. It was just like the grayish mask, the eyes, and the rest was pretty black. And we just had a stare down. And I couldn't tell you how much time went by, but it seemed pretty brief. And I had my phone on me. And of course, I didn't bother to pop it out or anything. It was just kind of like this frozen moment, and we're staring at each other. And I went about my day. I drove off, and that was it. I can't remember if it took off or what. I didn't bother getting out of the car or anything. I was just kind of like stunned, surprised, and I'm like, wow. And that was it, man. That was the first time. And so to jump to the second time really quick, second time was in the northern part of the county. There's a town that I was living in also, because so we had the homestead in the southern part of the county, but we also had a house up in town, which was a few hours away. And we had the town, the house in town, just for our son to go to school and you know, little jobs and whatnot. And so there's this town there that I was living in. It's called Trinidad, California. It's a little above Arcata, California, where the university is. And it's a small fishing town. And so you're also nestled within the redwoods. So it's really cool. And so this area has gotten a lot of reports from Trinidad. And so I'm living there, and around Trinidad, there's a lot of beaches as well. So like I said, fishing town, beaches all up around there. And I started finding a bunch of structures on the beaches. So which was a new thing to me, because a lot of the people that we were involved with were finding stuff in the woods. And I know some people have found stuff in deserts and stuff. And yeah, here's an example here. So this is like almost like a teepee, I would describe it. And inside there was, like, you could see a small little X and a few other sticks that were placed kind of oddly. So I don't know if the structure was falling apart or that was just part of the structure. And I don't, you know, we all question what the structures are for, whether they're shelter or whether they're markers. I really don't know. We could only speculate. I have my my ideas and what I believe sometimes. But yeah, that was an example there. And so I'm finding a bunch of structures like this all up and down certain areas along this area, and even in Trinidad. And so one day I'm heading on to the main highway. We got there is Highway 101, and there had been reports before of road cross, which is number one reports, right? Is road cross sightings from there. And I'm leaving the town of Trinidad. I'm heading on to Highway 101, headed south. And as soon as I get on the on ramp, it must have been not even half a mile down the road. There must have been 2 or 3 other cars in front of me. And on the road here is a major highway. You do get your occasional bikers, bicyclists, and then sometimes you get your hitchhikers, every once in a while. But it's pretty, it's pretty remote areas, man. But you do get that. And so I figured, so I had seen a subject walk across from the left side of the highway, and it walked all the way across to the other side of the highway. And along the sides of the highway, it's nothing but redwoods. And so I see this subject go across pretty fast, and it was just basically like a black, tall silhouette. And I was pretty far from the subject. I would say I was another, maybe, like I said, it was 3, 4 cars ahead of me, and they were going pretty fast. And I had just gotten on, so I was gaining speed. It must have been, man, I would say maybe 30, 40 yards. But I could tell that this thing was tall, and I couldn't make anything out, like if it had a backpack or holding anything. It didn't look like it was holding anything, and it made its way across the road pretty quick. And so I figured, okay, if this is somebody, I'm gonna see them on the side of the road right now, when I pass by. And the car zoomed by. I passed by where this subject had just walked across, and there was nobody there. And the highway on the side where the trees are, it drops down to a very steep ravine. And like I said, it's nothing but redwood trees, ferns, and it drops down steep. So for a person to walk down there, I think it'd be pretty gnarly. And if you keep going down that ravine, you end up at the beach, where I'm finding these structures and all this stuff, all these reports are coming from. And I'll even add, here are some of the teepees. And actually, this is from another beach out of Mendocino County, so the county under us, but it's all basically, man, the same areas, And yeah, some of the structures are very small. Some are teepee shaped. Some are just like they line up a bunch of sticks. And I just showed you a few from that area. There's so many more, Chris, in that particular area. And I'm just kind of going to bounce to, since you're showing that, I'll bounce to that story, what happened there. But yeah, basically that was the second road cross sighting. And I do believe it was a Sasquatch. And to add to,
I don't want to interrupt you. I remember when you had that sighting. I remember when you took the time and you went to that spot and you went down and you showed the bank where it went down. You went into detail to show everything that happened that day. And that was I remember that now from you telling the story, just like it was yesterday.
Oh yeah. And I've documented a lot of stuff from that area, and I'm pretty sure I've maybe mentioned that, where that had happened, and I maybe did a video on maybe even getting onto the highway or whatnot. And I do know, and it's funny because on the entrance of that highway, there's a little plaza there where there's a little bait and tackle shop and a market, and there's a pizzeria there. And at the pizzeria, they actually have a Bigfoot painted in the front eating a slice of pizza. Which I thought was really funny, and just like little things like that'll happen, it's just like, oh man, here's a, Bigfoot, I'm grabbing a slice of pizza, and there's one there eating a slice of pizza where I had my sighting right over here, and where I'm finding these, just like all these weird, funny things, man. It's a trip. And so, yeah, so where I found these structures that you're showing there, that's in Mendocino. And we had taken some time out for my wife's birthday. and got a nice Airbnb on Highway 1, which is right on the coast. It's beautiful. You know, you're basically on the beach, and you got beautiful hills behind you and whatnot. And so we're at this place and celebrating her birthday. And from the top of the Airbnb, you could see the bottom of the beach. And I'm looking down there, and sure enough, I spot a bunch of structures from up where I'm watching. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to go down there and see what's going on. And so we ended up making our way down there, and we noticed that the entrance to the beach was closed for some reason, which I thought was pretty odd. And I also like to mention that Northern California beaches are not like Central or Southern California beaches where, you know, beaches are usually packed with people from everywhere. And, you know, Northern California is a lot more lonely. You know, you do get your people that come to the beach and whatnot, but it's not, it's not Waikiki. And so anyway, so we make our way down. I thought it was odd that the place was closed, but we were able to walk in through foot. And as soon as I walk in, I start noticing just structures all over the place. And I'm like, wow, okay. Where do I start? And so I get my phone out and start documenting some of the structures and making my way to some of the other ones. And I spotted a blue marble at my foot, which I thought was pretty mind blowing. And I was like, whoa. And by that time, I was already familiar with the work of Mike Patterson and a bunch of others. And something inside of me just told me, like, you know, this is it. This is the marble thing. And yeah, all right. Could kids have been playing at the beach with marbles? Yeah, I could see that. But this particular beach, I don't know. Something just told me no, you know, and to find some of the structures as well. Some of them were huge. Some of them were really tiny. And yeah, so I find the marble. I give a shout out to Mike. Even I was making a video, and I head over to this teepee structure. And then on this teepee structure, I noticed two carvings at a driftwood. And I'm looking at these things, and they're kind of like, you know, dome shape. They have the dome shape going on, and one has kind of like a mean face, and the other one got like kind of like a nice smiley face, a little mustache. And I'm like, dude, these things look like Sasquatches to me. Like inside, I'm telling myself, and I'm just like, what is this? And on a teepee structure, I was just kind of blown away, man. And I just felt like maybe it was a gift for me, and I wasn't sure about it. So I was debating whether to take them or not. And I ended up leaving them. You know what? I said, I'll leave them. I'm not sure, but I'll take a picture. I'll document them, and we'll leave it at that. And I was just stoked with the marble and the structures. And so I made it a thing. I ended up coming back a few months later, and some of the structures had rearranged. They were still around, but I went to go check to see if the carvings were still there, but they were gone.
So that leads us now to the prints. Okay, how can we explain? Now you have all these structures all over the place,
Yes.
and now there's no footprints. I mean, maybe you'll find a couple here and there, but there's no footprints going from here to there, from point A to point B.
Yeah, well, they're more like impressions. They're not actual, like you couldn't make out, like, you know, so you could tell that someone was walking around in the sand, but they weren't defined prints or anything like that. You know, it's a little tough sometimes to get it in the sand, but I do believe I sent you one out of one of my areas, a couple of tracks. And yeah, that's one there. It's a pretty fat track, that one. And yeah, you can see other foot tracks that are there. Some of them might be mine. And then also you can tell that there's been a bike in the area. So like I mentioned, people do come to these areas. But once again, it's these areas where these reports are coming out of. So I'm just like, okay, putting 1 and 2 together and you know, taking it from there. And that was just one print. You know, I did want to send, we weren't sure if we could send full on videos. So I did just send pictures. And so there is videos to those pictures and stuff that have been posted on my channel for a while. But and my channel's kind of a mess. I'm barely starting to, you know, get things together there. But yeah, all that stuff's on there. And yeah, man. And there's some other tracks that I sent you, actually, some out of Oregon that I recently found. and those were next to a teepee structure, which I found pretty fascinating. And you could pull that up whenever you want, but yeah, man, that's what's going on in my world, and several other strange things that we might get into. I don't know if you're ready for that yet, Chris, but
um, I wanna get your take before we go any further on the tracks. I mean, you'll find one track, like that picture you show one track. Was
yeah.
there any other tracks, or was it just the one?
No, it was several more. Like I
So
said, so there's a video to that, and you could see several other tracks. And in the tracks, you could tell like they're not all perfect, which I hear is like what you want to find, because if they all look perfect, it's kind of a red flag. But yeah, you could tell like whoever was walking, how the toes kind of just shift and move into the sand and all that, and yeah, it just really stood out to me, and thought it was worth documenting.
but you have found like one print without any other thing around. That's
Yeah, and I know a lot of people report that, and I think I've even heard people say as far as like it's always like the right foot, and I don't know how true all that is, but yeah, there has been times, and I have documented where it's been like 2 or 3 tracks, and then that's it, you know. And then yeah, the single one type thing, I think I'm pretty sure I've experienced that, but it's usually 1 or 2 or 3, and then they're done. But then the ones in Oregon, it was a bunch of them, and they were different sizes, and but they weren't massive. They weren't like 21-inch or anything like that. So what I'm thinking is, could they be juveniles? I don't know, a female. I'm not sure.
I have to see if I can get that one. I don't know if I got.
And yeah, so I wanted to mention in Oregon. So where I'm staying in Oregon is actually right near the Southern Oregon. I don't know if you've heard of the Bigfoot trap.
I'm sorry, I'm loading that.
No
picture.
worries. Yeah, no worries. And so anyway, I'll keep talking, man. The Bigfoot trap, Southern Oregon, I guess was put there in the 70s, and I guess it goes back to miners that were in the area in the late 1800s, I believe, and early 1900s, that were finding tracks and having encounters in the area. And so I guess this wildlife group in the 70s decided to build this cabin trap device thing out there in the woods, out in Applegate Lake. And so it's kind of these days it's like a little tourist thing. The kids go hang out there, and people go and check it out. And but so I went to go check out this trap, and I found structures there, man. And in the surrounding lake, I also found structures and some tracks. And whenever you want to pull that up, if you want to check those out, I did send them. There you go. And so I did make video of this as well. And like I said, it's a bunch of tracks. And this was the second day. The first day when I had first found it, so family had gone out and to the lake, and we had family visiting, and we're pulling up to the lake, and I noticed a teepee off to the side, and I mentioned to the family, hey, there's a structure over there. I'm gonna go check it out. And they're like, oh, there goes Dwarf doing his thing, right? And so the family ends up going to the lake, and I go do my thing. And I'm checking out this teepee, a small, really nice teepee, and I noticed there's like berry bushes with fresh, ripe berries behind the teepee, and a little trail that goes up into the woods. And it was weird. It was positioned on this. I don't even know what to call it, but it was like above where like the lake would sit down below, and this where the structure was, it was like up here where the tree line was, and below where the lake would be, it was all dried up. So the lake, because I guess we've been in drought and all that stuff, but you could see a bunch of footprints that were left there in mud. And some of them you could tell were, obviously shoes, humans, and some of them that looked more like human feet. But then I noticed some that were just boxy looking, sunken really deep. One of them had like, a couple of them might have had the mid-tarsal thing going on. And I was just like blown away right next, like not too far from this teepee structure. I'm finding these huge, and I say huge, but at the time I was like being kind of like, oh, tracks aren't all that big, but they're pretty big tracks, and I was just blown away, man.
Did they have the supermodel walk? You know, one foot in front of the other. That's what I call it, the supermodel, because that's how they walk on stage. Was that how they were lined up?
Yeah, the whole tightrope thing, yes. And I did a little video on that, doing how showing how they were walking like the tightrope, and that was also confirmation for me that these weren't normal tracks. And yeah, I call it the tightrope. Would you say you call it?
Supermodel walk. That's how they walk
Right.
out the runway. You know, they put that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the catwalk walk.
Yeah, catwalk. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So it's just like, little things like that. Well, I say little, but to me they're big. Things like that are just confirmation for me that we're on to something, or I feel like I'm on to something. And then you add in the sightings. And I wanted to mention also, I've had some weird dreams, some squatchy dreams, man. And these days, yeah, I do consider dreams to be important, man. They could be messages for oneself, or maybe for others. It could be guidance, and I do believe also that the Sasquatch people are here to guide some of us. I do believe there are some good ones out there, because there's the whole debate of what are they? Are they demonic? Are they your friendly forest giant? Are they, what is it? I've asked myself that many times too. But with the experiences that I've had, and me still being here, I feel like they're not out to kill me. They're not out to hurt me. I have never been hurt, thank God. But I know people, and I heard of people that have, so it's like, what is it? What is going on? So many questions, man.
Oh, I agree with you. It took me. I started off one way, and I went another way. I went to flesh and blood. That's all they are. That they, and then I had the strange hit me like a pie in the face. Right in the face. And I started meditating, and I've had messages. And I just recently, I was trying to, when you were talking about the one with the mask on his face, I just had a meditation dream again of one jumping on my chest. It was a little black furry dude, and he had the mask, just like you explained in your sighting. And he jumped on and he said he called himself Archibald. I don't get it. I don't know what it is all about, but this is the second one that's happened now. The other one was Atari. I don't know if everybody's seen her picture, but I'm going to put her up real close. This came to
Wow.
Now, this came to me, the name and the face came to me in meditation. No lie, Natari is the first Native American saint. I have never said that name in my entire life. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah,
Trip out on that. And who did this painting here?
I did it.
What?
Yeah, from what I
Okay.
hear. Her eyes are dead on. She was just a little bit grayer skin. But
Wow.
and then I did one of Archibald, but that's what I tried digging up when you were talking, but I couldn't get to it quick enough. We'll address it
I
another
like
time.
that name.
Well, they come. That's another name that I would never use in my entire Archibald. I've never said that in my life. I mean, so I'm with you on the dreams and the meditation and certain things that are going in the ufology part of it, the UFOs. Now, I just want to touch a little bit based on that right now, because you said when you were younger, you had experiences with the UFO. What were some of the things that you experienced when you were younger with UFOs?
Yeah. So and you gotta excuse me. You gotta excuse me. I'm gonna be like kind of muting and unmuting my mic because I could hear music in the background. So let's see. UFOs, yes. So yes, I remember always being interested in the topic aliens and unidentified flying objects, and I just remember always looking up into the skies, wanting to see one, and yeah, it happened. It happened several times, and it's happened to several of my family members where it's happened even together. I've seen a lot of strange stuff in the skies with my brother, and my family has had a group sighting as well. Some strange stuff. I don't know if it was, you know, human or alien. Who knows? But it was some weird stuff. And then up to these days, so the property in Southern Humboldt, we started getting, so I mentioned there was activity happening there. I was getting like weird vocals, the structures on the property that had the sighting. And so things would happen throughout the year. And this was over years of living there. A lot of things had happened, and a lot of the stuff's documented and posted, you know. What was I going to mention? Kind of lost my train of thought there, and it happens from time to time.
Oh,
Downloading that file.
good.
Yeah, I don't know. Where were we?
I am loading up Archibald while you were talking about the UFO scene when you were younger.
Yeah. So the UFOs, yeah. So I remember just always seeing strange stuff in the skies, you know, which was questionable. But you know, now I'm hearing even I think as of late, Los Angeles County is I think if not number one, up there, top three, I think in counties with UFOs reports right now. And so yeah, it's always happening here. I had one recently. I could send you some pictures over, and it's stuff that I've shared already. And it's stuff. A lot of this stuff I want to get with. I would like to get with someone, and hopefully one day I will too. Get the equipment to be able to zoom in on stuff and really go in on things. You know. So if anyone's out there and is willing to take a look at any of my videos, please, yeah, let me know. I'd love to share some of this stuff and see what's really going on. But yeah, so yeah, a lot of the UFO stuff. So the orbs started popping out on the property, and so I got a lot of that stuff documented, and yeah, a lot of hours of staring at these things. It's pretty crazy stuff, and it's really happening, and you could hear these days. I hear it all over the place. The orb seems like to be a big topic.
And you got actually video that we could share here.
And if you are going to share that, I'm going to say it was a really quick video because I was actually relieving myself at the moment, and this is on my property. And you'll see an orb at this ridge top. And in the background, you won't be able to hear it, but there's like a dog that barks. And at the end, it was another bark, but I don't know if it was a dog. But, you know, don't mind the vocals. You know, you can go in on that later. But you will see this orb kind of dart right behind the ridge.
Right. Here we go. It's really good. It's really good. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm working through 3 screens here and trying to get it all lined up. I'm not a professional. Get solid. This is an orb. See the energy in the middle. There's an energy around it. I'm going to play it again. If you notice in the middle, there's like it's like a, I don't even know how to explain it, but there's like a clear something around the outside.
Yes. Well, I don't know if plasma is what you're looking for.
I don't know what it is, but that's common when you see orb, the real deal. It's not camera. It's not it's not anything to do with the camera. This is a real orb.
Mm-hmm. And there wouldn't be any like drones or anything. That's all private property there. You know, no one would be there. And these things I would see these things. Sometimes they'd be stationary because there's a huge rock on the property. And there's one particular orb there. It's like a blue white one that looks like a star. It pop out almost every night. And it would do these things where it would get big, brighten up, and sometimes it would dim down, and it would like dance around and stuff, and it would like go blink out, turn back on, change colors, all sort of different colors I've described. Also, it's like the flower power when playing Mario Brothers. You light up and you start changing all those psychedelic colors and stuff. You know, stuff like that. And I've seen the red and all the different colored orbs, blue, green ones. And I've seen them float through the woods. I've seen them fly up into the sky. I've seen them drop from the sky into the woods, like that one we just showed. And yeah, man, I've also gotten what I, would think is a mind speak, because when I look at these things, I would be staring at them, and it would be a little scary sometimes. 2, 3 in the morning and you're out in the woods alone, and these things are happening, and you know that, you know, there's Sasquatches around and stuff, you know, it can get pretty hairy. But yeah, I would stare at these things, and I would get like a feeling of being, because I would get like hear a voice in my head, and I knew it wasn't me. And I would kind of respond back, like, you know, hey, you know what, I'm here, come in peace, I'm acknowledging you. You know, I don't know, what are you? You know, if you're good, then we're good. It's all good. You know, but if you are something negative, then I'm gonna keep my distance. But I do acknowledge you, you know, and I would, you know, communicate with it like that, and all through my head, you know, I wasn't saying it out loud, and sometimes I felt like it would react to the things I would say, you know. And sometimes I would even think like, okay, is it gonna blink out, right? And it would blink out, and then two or three would pop up. And man, I could go on and on about these things, but it is a real phenomenon. And you know, you hear about people tying these things to Sasquatch, and so I keep that in mind. I've never seen anything like a Sasquatch come out of it, or them holding one or anything like that, but I have heard about it, and so I just keep it in mind, you know.
So, so you have experienced the alien UFOs. You have experienced the Sasquatch. You have experienced orbs, which is most commonly thought of as paranormal. The trifecta. Here's the question, the big question right now. Do you think it's all linked? Is it all one crazy cycle?
Uh, yeah, yeah. Well, at the end of it all, yes, I do. I do believe in a creator God, you know, the Most High God. Um, Call it Source, or whatever. So I think at the end, yeah, you know, that's the ultimate creator. So that's how I think it's all one, you know. But yeah, there's these different little, call it facets, or different things, phenomenons that are happening, but I think they are somehow connected for sure. And I do believe we are also connected, you know. And it's crazy because we think of ourselves as separate and individuals, and yes, we are in a sense, but I also am learning and do believe that we are one as well, man.
I'm learning a ton of stuff since I've taken this road from a lot of different people. And if anybody is listening tonight or is in the audience and listening to what's going on, and you're a little afraid of what's happening and you're not quite sure, you are not alone. There are lots of people that experience this. There's a lot of people that have these meditation dreams or have these dreams. They have the lights in their backyards. There's people that experience it for years and years and years. There's always places you can reach out, and if you ever need anybody, you could reach out to me, you could reach out to Brown Dwarf. There's a lot of people out there. If you need to reach out and get a hand from someone and talk, just to talk about it, helps out a lot, because it's not an everyday occurrence. It's not, you don't experience this. People don't think this is every day, and it isn't.
Mhm.
Um so I mean, what this is, here you go. Now look at that. This this is Archibald. This is what I experienced.
Wow,
And with
I
your
love it.
little eye thing, remember, that's exactly what his eyes looked like.
Yep, the little mask. I love
Yep.
it.
And
Yeah,
that's
you
just
see,
crazy.
you couldn't see like his nose or anything. Yeah, it kind
No,
of look,
just
you
a
know.
mask. Just a mask. Crazy because we didn't talk about this. This is your sighting. This is what you've seen. This popped into my meditation. I always pray first. I always pray to, because I believe in a higher power too. You have to have your faith. Keep your faith, everybody. Keep your faith.
Yes.
Be protected. Protect yourself, because there's other things out there.
Yeah, and while you're mentioning that, yeah, I do believe it's a spiritual warfare going on too, man. And I honestly believe that. And so you have this level of existence, like, yeah, you know, we call it the matrix. Yeah, you go to work 9 to 5, pay the bills. There's that. I get it. But then outside of that, there's another reality as well, and that's where all this stuff, you know, is happening. And so what is, you know, what I ask myself, what is reality? You know, what is it? The paying the bills, being caught up in that rat race? Is that really living? Is that what life is, you know. And I don't think so, man. I think for me, reality is the stuff that we're not being told, the stuff that's really happening. And I feel inside of me that I want to go and you know, seek these mysteries, you know, and it's something inside of me that's like, yeah, go seek this out or go check that out and that. And I think that for me, that's living, man. That's, you know, and then sharing it with you guys and people sharing stuff back. Oh man, I love it, man. And you see me, I'm in people's chats and
Oh, yeah,
always, you know, chopping it up and yeah, living it, man.
you have to, and you have to make people aware. There's things that happen that people need to be aware of, and this is 100% real. This is not fake. This is not fake. This really 100% happens. I know we
Yeah.
don't have a lot of people that are in the chat room, this or anything, but hopefully there's one person out there that's not in the chat room and is listening to us right now, going, you know, because they're experiencing this stuff and learning that they're not alone in experiencing what's going on, because that mask thing, and I didn't never knew about your first your sighting or whatever, and I made that picture, and that's years later, and here we're talking about it, and all of a sudden you bring up the mask, and
Boom.
boom.
Yep. And see those little connections like that. It's just, man, that's what it's about.
It's
And
it's what
yeah,
it's
you were saying something right now also that I wanted to kind of touch on also, and it'll come back to me.
well,
Dude, when I do this, it's like a lot of times when I'm done, I'm always like, oh man, I should have mentioned that. I should have
yeah.
mentioned this and that and that and this. And so hopefully you'll have me back and we could
Well,
touch on things that
you're
we
gonna come
might have
back.
missed.
You're gonna come back on KGRA in a couple weeks, and then
Hey,
I'll have you definitely back on here again.
that would
We're
be awesome, man. I love it. Oh, so yeah, I wanted to, let's see. You're mentioning something about so chat. So some of the people in chat might be familiar with some of the stuff we showed already, and it's been a blessing to as of late. I've been getting invited to different podcasts, and so I've been kind of showcasing some of the same pictures and some of the same stuff. But I feel that's all right, because there's maybe someone out there who hasn't seen, you know, something, or who hasn't heard, you know, what someone else already maybe heard from me, and we'll make a connection there, you know. So I don't mind, you know. It's like, you know, in my head, you know, I think like, oh dude, you're showing the same stuff, you're saying the same stuff, and but no, I realize that maybe there might be someone out there that, you know what, might be might need to hear this. So
well, nobody knew about Archibald until it just happened, and that's just crazy in itself. So I don't like to have questions. I know people that are new to here, I don't really take questions during an interview, because I think it's important for everybody to hear what the guest has to say. But at the end of the show, I do take questions. So if you guys want to ask them questions, capital letters, please, for Brown Dwarf, and we'll get some of your questions answered. I'll scroll back a little bit farther too and see what we
cool.
had. Again, thank you for coming. Full circle again, and just again, there's no more coincidence in my book. This stuff is not coincidence any longer.
Oh,
It
yeah.
does. You can't explain it, and it's just it's a wild ride now. Here we got.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Here
You
we go.
know,
We got Kaiju Ninja. What
yeah,
does
I see.
Bigfoot is, and has he possibly encountered other cryptids?
What is Brown for? Okay. Yeah, I'm on the, and Kaiju, I see you around, brother. What's up? I'm on the trip right now that they are possibly another uh hominid, you know, with abilities that obviously we don't have, way better and far out abilities than we have. And I do believe they could disappear, they could cloak, um, they could do just a lot of the weird things that you hear about. Because I do believe that this is a world of energy and vibration, and I believe some of them are masters of it. And if they are, they're able to, you know, do things that we may find impossible or mind-blowing. And then as far as encountering other cryptids, yeah, I've shown there's one video I've shown before. It's a tree stump in the redwoods. It's actually this weird, crazy X that I'm looking at. And then, so from what we've been learning is that a lot of times around the structures, you'll possibly encounter cryptids, you know, and you won't notice them maybe until after the fact. Maybe you're going through your video and you'll notice things. But yeah, there's this stump, and on the stump, clearly you can see this face on there, and it looks like, man, I can't, I don't know how to describe it. Someone had mentioned some sort of cryptid or something last time, and other people have mentioned possibly it's some sort of an elemental, but clearly you see it there. And I think even in the video, it might have like almost like blinked a bit, it seemed like, and that was pretty strange. And I've also traveled to several places. One of them being in Venezuela, where my mom's from, and I have a cousin out there who's just like me, long dreadlocks. Dude lives up in the mountains and the whole nine, you know, very spiritual, and so he took us camping up in the mountains up there, Avila Mountain, and there's actually a Humboldt hotel up there. Once again, this connection with Humboldt. And so we camped out there, and he told us about the little people in the area. And he's like, yeah, you'll hear them come around at night. And we set up camp. And sure enough, later on that night, we heard what we felt like little footsteps. And it was my partner who had heard the footsteps. And she doesn't really like give much to this stuff. She believes it, but she kind of freaked out. And I heard the steps too. And there's also this little pack of wild dogs that go around also. And they were out doing their thing. But yeah, we heard footsteps, and he says those are the little people.
I believe in them. I think I've had them at our area when we were
Wow.
We've found prints that were the size of a lighter at
Wow.
that we called Larry's. So I don't. It's so I agree with you on those things too.
Yeah, I found some small tracks before that were very questionable. Documented them, and in an area right next to the Hoopa Reservation, and I'm sure there's you know, stories and stuff of little people out of there for sure too.
Native Americans talk about them often. So.
Mm-hmm.
DJ Arkansas asks, has you ever heard the strange whistles?
Yeah, I've heard whistles before. And as far as documenting them, I'm pretty sure I probably got them documented, but you know, it's hard to tell, you know, with the whistles. And you know, these days, you know, a lot of stuff gets questioned, as it should be, you know. But I hear a lot these days. It's like, were you there? You know, so if you weren't there, or if you didn't see the Bigfoot do it, then it didn't do it, right? Which, okay, makes sense. But I feel like when you're on this journey and these things start to happen and you get that feeling, there's like a little bell that rings that has that, like, that little confirmation, that feeling when you get these confirmations that it's them. And so when things happen that I can't prove that, you know, what it was, but I get that feeling, then I believe that's them. Let's see.
Katanga, Mr. Brown, have you ever had vocalization audio but never heard live?
No, that's pretty trippy. Not that I know of. And I have gotten some vocals before, and unfortunately, a lot of times I've been using my phone, and so it's kind of like, you know, you really got to listen. But there's stuff there, and I've captured some strange stuff. And I, with the Zoom recorder, which I don't have anymore. I need to get me another one. I did capture some interesting and very loud and clear stuff out of Yosemite and some other places too. And you know, I could share with that anytime. And the Yosemite stuff I've recently like reposted. I've been kind of like reposting some of my older stuff too, because I know there's stuff that people haven't seen, and you kind of just put it out there again so people could, you know, remember, and or for those that haven't checked it out, check out.
Yeah, we've actually been catching EVPs lately, and crazy. And there's my buddies on here, Al Santoriga. I call him the Squatch Father.
Yeah, salute, Al. Much respect, man.
He's, you know, Al. Everybody knows Al. But we caught an EVP of somebody. We got out of the truck and it said help. You hear it plain as day. It goes help.
Oh my gosh.
So an hour and a half later, we pick it up again. It's a little behind us, but it's an hour and a half up the trail. And it says you hear it plain as day. It goes help again.
Oof.
So Al calls me. He goes, "What do you think you missed?" And I said, "I have no idea." He says, "Whatever that is, followed you. It followed you up the trail an hour and a half in. It didn't stay at the truck. It followed you guys to wherever you were going, and that just
Wow.
creeped me right out, man."
So in that case, what do you think? You don't think it was your Sasquatches, do you, or
I think
it was something else?
but I don't know, but I don't think it was a Sasquatch. No, I've
Okay.
had some pretty crazy stuff go on, and Doug Hychek just told us about the Zoom H1N actually records in infrasound. Their specs are wrong,
Wow.
and they're only
See, good
they're
to know.
$69, and
Mhm.
they work
And
great. I've been using them for 3 years, but
and salute once again, Doug. I know Doug is like MacGyver.
he's a great guy. He is like MacGyver. That's funny because I told him that after the show the other night. I'm like, you know what? You're like MacGyver.
Yeah, you did mention that. Yeah, so that's why I'm mentioning that again. He is, man. And a lot of great tips on that great show with Doug, man. I was listening in and was taking notes.
Yeah,
For
he had
sure.
a lot of good stuff. Mr. Jeremy Scott asks, could you elaborate on your dream experience? Were they the same dream repeatedly?
Yeah, no. So one dream, really quick. I know we're getting a little short on time. I don't know when you're gonna cut this, but quickly, the latest dream was at a Bluff Creek. So I was in Bluff Creek recently, meeting up with some guys. There's a bunch of other guys out there that I didn't know were gonna be there, so I made a bunch of new friends, and it was cool. But we broke off into our own little group to do a night investigation, and a lot of well-known guys were there as well. And so we did our night thing, and that's a whole other story. And so I had set up my camp at Louse Camp where everyone normally camps at, but since we had done our investigation somewhere else, we ended up at Laird Meadow, and there's kind of like a little camp spot there. But my tent and all my stuff was back at Louse. And so we're done with our investigation that night. We're all getting tired. People are starting to fall asleep. And I ended up just sleeping in my rig. I didn't want to drive back down to the other camp. And so I'm laying in my rig there. And I noticed later on in the night, I felt like I was awake. So I knew I wasn't dreaming, but I didn't have my eyes open. And I have a lifted rig with a custom bumper in the front. And I felt the presence. For some reason, I felt a presence of three beings for some reason, and something telling me, don't open your eyes. And so I'm wanting to open my eyes, and I don't open my eyes. And I start feeling the front of my bumper slowly being what felt like being pushed down, 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 down. And I'm like, oh my God, the truck is moving right now. I'm thinking they're outside of the truck right now. And I'm like, the door is unlocked. Oh gosh, I didn't want to move. And it was a little scary. But I was like, dude, this is, here you are, Bluff Creek, you want us, right? It's going down. And man, it was super exciting. And so that was really recent. And then I've had some other dreams. I was watching an old video, and I had mentioned in the video that I had a dream of finding a structure. And I believe in the video, I did find possibly a teepee structure or whatnot. And so that was pretty interesting. And one more, the first dream I had back in it was Honeydew, the hippie guy where I lived. So I was in this wickiup. Aside from the property, I was at the bottom of this hill, kind of creepy, dilapidated wickiup, half cabin thing, old hippies had built. And so I'm staying in that thing. And one night I'm alone on the property, and I had a case of sleep paralysis. And I've had it before. And so I'm stuck, but I'm aware. I'm like, oh, I'm getting the sleep paralysis. I didn't even try screaming that time, because it had to happen where you try to yell, scream and stuff, and you can't do anything. And so I'm staying calm, and I noticed that the door of the wickiup was open. and in the front of the door, I noticed 3 big silhouettes, and I was just like, what? And at the time, I wasn't into the whole, topic like I am now, and I was able to break myself out of the paralysis, and yeah, I don't know what happened after that, but I remember those 3 beings. Well, later on, I got this book by Tom Powell called The Locals. I recommend it. Great book. Shout out Tom. And in the cover, I forget the guy who illustrated it, but it's these 3 Sasquatch, and it's almost like silhouettes, and it just reminded me of that freaking dream, Chris. And I was like, okay, so and then so I'm going back on a lot of things and putting things together where situations where it's like, oh, could it have been them, or something else, things like that, man. But yeah, those are just a few dreams there.
Yeah, what a wild ride, man. I'm happy that we reconnected. We're gonna do this again. We're gonna have you back again.
Cool, man.
I don't even know where to go with it. The whole, I'm still blown away by the Archibald thing and your sighting.
Archibald.
I know you just can't. You're hooked. You're joined. And Al Santoriga. If anybody doesn't know Al, he knows a lot about all this stuff. And look him up if you guys got questions on that. He knows a lot more than I do by far. He's been doing this for 350 years. He's actually.
And
but
Chris,
no.
Excuse me, I also want to mention, I know, and I totally respect the, what we call it, apers and the woo, whatever. I'm flesh and blood too, but I know it goes far out this way as well. And I respect, the whole science view of it, but I'm not waiting for science to confirm anything for me. I know it's happening, and science will catch up. But much respect.
I agree with you 100%. They're definitely here. They definitely eat. They hunt. They sleep. They're here. We see them. They leave prints. They're here. Where they go, I don't know. Why they're in your dreams, I don't know. There's so much that has been opened up in the last. This just happened to me. This just happened over a year ago. Chris and Connor and myself had some experiences down in the Green Swamp that still blow my mind to this day. And ever since then, this whole new world has been opened, and it just keeps on. Maria and I saw a craft month and a half ago that was the size of a football field over our house here. Wow. And it was unreal. And I don't even know how to explain it. Maria doesn't want anything. She's my wife, but if you guys don't know who she is, she doesn't want nothing to do with it. I had a coyote leg left on my back door and stuff like that, and she doesn't want any part of any of the stuff, and she's experiencing it now, and it's just ride. But
yeah, and dude, I was having the animal thing too. I mentioned to you that my dog kept bringing all these deer carcasses. I'm like, dude, is there a lair on the property somewhere that I don't know about? And I tried looking, didn't find anything. But yeah, man, so much more to touch on, man. And yeah, anytime, Chris, anytime. I'm once again honored. Thank you, everyone out there. And yeah, man, keep up the good works.
And we're gonna definitely do this again. KGRA in a couple weeks, he'll be on, and we'll talk about a little more stuff. I'm sorry if we didn't get to everybody's questions again.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to check out any particular videos, you could leave it in Chris's chat, and I could maybe post the link. I'll check out the chat after your messages, and if anyone has any questions or anything like that, yeah, just you could leave them on my channel, any videos, or on Chris's, and I'd be more than happy to get back to you.
I'll link everything in the description tomorrow. I'll get everything from him tonight, everything that he wants to share with y'all, and we'll go from there. So again, thank you, my friend. Hang out backstage a little bit, and I'll be right there. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, Mr. Brown Dwarf. All right. What a show. Again, the stuff that's going on out there is 100% real. I don't know how to explain it anymore. It's part of what's going on, and I don't know how it's linked. We're trying to figure out. That's why we're out there. That's why guys like Brown Dwarf are out there. Myself, my team, Al Santoriga, people in the chat, I'm sure, are out there. PJ Arkansas, Digger Dog, all these people are out there looking for the answers. And hopefully, if we start working together, we'll get the answers. Like I said, this year, we're going to start working with ufologists, paranormal people, and we're all going to go out at the same time together and see what we can use together to come up with different ideas and different strategies and just different experiences. So if you guys want to win the t-shirt tonight, go into the comments and leave a comment. And the comment that I'm asking you to leave is get in the woods, people. That's it. So all you got to do to win the shirt is go into the comments and say, get in the woods, people. And that's it. And then you'll be entered to win the show. And as always, my friend Larry always says, just like this, get in the woods, people.